I am ready to walk across no man's land to meet you. It's about time, and I am ready to kiss your lips and let you touch my difference, but we're aligned. I'm here to face the edge of the world, and I want you by my side. I want you to be my partner in ending crime against the earth as we fight for our lives. We can unite to survive. We're all in this together. Unite and we can fly. One desire, survive. Unite to survive. We're all in this together. Unite and we can fly. Everyone deserves life.
Not ready yet? Yeah?
Not yet.
No, you've got to you.
Just they come in. Oh my good. Enough people.
Are you ready? Be dissolved the earth. Are you ready to face the truth? It's about life. I am with you. I'm standing on the bridge. Come and meet me, and you will find we're different, but we're aligned. I am here to face the edge of the world, and I want you by my side. I want you to be my partner in ending crime against the earth as we fight for our lives. We can unite to survive. We're all in this together. Unite and we can thrive. Everyone deserves life. Unite to survive. We're all in this together. Unite and we can thrive. Everyone deserves life. So give me your word, believe in my dream, that we can build bridges in between. Because we are so different, but we all need to breathe. We all need to love, and we all need to see that we can unite to survive. We're all in this together. Unite and we can fly. Everyone deserves a life. Unite to survive. We're all in this together. Unite and we can thrive. Everyone deserves a life. Welcoming all of you to this open call.
Okay. You've muted yourself, Kimway.
Okay. Welcome to this open call. Bear with me as I transfer from one device to the next. I'd like to begin by introducing everyone that we have, and beginning with Marie, who you'll already our wonderful BSL interpretation. So with us tonight, we have Miranda, who is instrumental in relationships, and this is our relationships themed open call. We also have Ben from Relationships, Kathy from Global, yeah, thank you for pinning yourself as we go along. If anyone else is presenting, please pin yourself as well, as there's a lot of people in the chat, in the call tonight. Thank you all of you for coming along. We also have Sam and Asad who will be presenting this evening. And it's my great honour to hand you over for the first item to Miranda, who's going to introduce Relationships Circle and tell you a bit more about what it's all about. So I'll pass to you, Miranda.
Thanks, Kinway. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's brilliant to see you all. Yeah, so we have been working really hard. We worked really hard on the big one, getting those 200 plus supporters to come on board. It wasn't easy, but it worked really well in the end and was definitely an instrumental to us achieving the 100,000 people over the 4 days that we had set out to achieve. Our supporters also brought in such diversity and, you know, so much kind of richness to the big one. So we're really grateful to all those organizations who came on board to support for everything they contributed, big and small. We have debriefed with the supporters of the big one. Their feedback was overwhelmingly incredibly positive, that it was a really positive experience joining the big one. Some even commented that there was a real magic about pairing up with XR, especially, you know, this was a comment from some of the sort of organizations that, you know, might have been more sort of risk averse or, you know, unlikely to have, you know, been with us before, that actually that kind of taking that risk and coming on the streets with us spoke to the urgency of the crisis, spoke to the need to do things differently, and that when they joined us, it was really quite monumental for them. That a certain energy and electricity and magic happened for them on the streets with us, which was really nice to hear. We are talking to all the supporters of the big one. We're still in dialogue with them. And many have shared the petition against Marcus's deportation, as well as ongoing conversations about what we might do together. And there's a real desire to keep up the momentum and to keep that energy going. You know, we're talking to those big supporters that people were particularly interested in, as well as, you know, the grassroots groups, the NGOs. We're keeping all of those doors open. But we're also talking to organizations we didn't manage to get on board for the big one, many of which are keen to find a way to work with us going forward. And there's a renewed sense of trust due to the smooth running of the big one. So we have spoken to representatives of groups that were notable by their absence, and many really were aware that, you know, that there was a desire for them to be there, but just couldn't make it work this time. And I'm very hopeful that we will bring in along many more groups next time we do something together. We are working really hard on building better links with trade unions, which is quite difficult because the way they operate is very different from us. We were really happy that PCS and Equity came along to support the big one, and we're finding ways of creating dialogues and ways of working with other unions as well. They work on a much sort of slower pace of moving things on than us, and there's things like trade union conferences and things like that. So with a big run up to the next thing we do, it's really important that we're connecting at a local level and on picket lines, as well as the work we're doing to try and connect with unions in other ways as well, so that next time we do something, we hope to have many more unions on board. We're also working to reach out to the migrant justice space and connect and find ways to be really great allies there and really stand up against the draconian laws that are coming in, because this is actually the people on the front lines of the climate crisis, both in terms of things they might migrants might have experienced in the places they're fleeing, but also for people coming here seeking asylum. Actually they're on the sharp end of the sort of draconian authoritarian right-wing policies that this government are enacting. So we really need to be in solidarity with them. So that's why we're really focused on work speaking to those organizations. We really encourage local groups to mirror the conversations that we're having centrally at a local level. So there's loads of opportunity for alliance building at the local level. And, I really sincerely want to thank local groups for everything they did in the run up to the big one, building those links locally, because it really helped. It really genuinely helped us get some of those big NGOs on board. They were hearing these rumblings from their local groups that they really wanted the organisation to come and support, and it was really instrumental in moving those organisations. So I'd really encourage local groups to keep that up, and there's huge potential for alliance building at a local level with some of these big organisations. RSPB, there's so much you can do with their members at a local level. Woodland Trust, there's absolutely loads you can do. The WI have amazing local groups that I'd really recommend looking into whether there's potential for collaboration there, as well as, of course, the other NGOs that we already have relationships with, like Friends of the Earth and Greenpeace. Really encouraging that alliance building there. It really helps with our central work, building those relationships. And as valuable as that local work is, I'd also ask that Rebels please restrain from trying to strike up conversations with organisations at a national level. So Relationships Circle, we have many conversations ongoing that might not always be visible, and we can't always talk about the conversations we're having because the organisations we're talking to might not want them to be public, and we're working on building trust and working on building a relationship that can be public facing, but it may not be yet. So it's really important that if anyone does have contacts in organisations or does have a way in, that they check in with us, and I'll put an email address in the chat in a sec that you can email us. But please don't sort of take matters in your own hands and decide to represent XRUK to national facing organisations, because it can kind of create a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion. So really sincerely ask people to not do that, please, and check in with us. That's not to say that nobody can be of help, but we need to work together, and you need to check in with our circle about what's already happening and be in dialogue with us. I am really looking forward to digging in more to what local organisations can do, what local groups can do locally. But before that, I'd really like to know what kinds of organisations or community groups you might have already reached out to. So Ned is going to put that poll in, put it live. So please let us know which kinds of organisations have you already reached out to in your local groups. How has that alliance building going? You can let us know in the chat. There's organisations that you've reached out to but they're not on the list. Please write in the chat which organisations you've built relationships with. It's really useful information. It's really interesting. And please in the chat share any thoughts, any learnings, any experiences you've had. We really want to hear from you. We're here on this call because we're the Relationships Circle, but that doesn't mean we're experts in local group alliance. All of you will have so many diverse and different experiences, and local group alliance building can vary so much depending on where you live and what your communities are like. So we really want to hear all of your experiences. And it's so valuable to hear everyone's different experiences and learnings that you might have taken from those experiences. I am going to pass over to Kathy to tell us about Global. But it's brilliant to see those results coming in. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Thanks, Kathy.
Hi, everyone. So I'm here to give a bit of a global perspective. Obviously, I'm just one random individual and I'm just going to give a tiny snapshot of a view. But like, it's easy to feel really powerless by the, by the scale and enormity of what's happening in the global south. And so although solidarity might seem a difficult thing, solidarity at its simplest level is very easy and really important. So what I mean is just taking an interest, just sharing, posting, whatever people do on social media, raising the consciousness of activists in the global south. And this has a couple of important outcomes. One is, if a lot of people are noticing what's going on with activists in the global south, that keeps them safer. So it's harder for governments to repress people that are noticed. Also, a little bit, it's an act of resistance, isn't it? The capitalism, as we know it, doesn't want us to notice the enormity of troubles that's happening in the global south. So it's kind of attitude of disruption to notice what we're not supposed to be looking at. And also, you never know. I've known groups that now are very close to some other groups in the global south simply because they reached out and after making a number of links. You never know what link will lead to what. Anyhow, let me give you a quick whiz through of a few things that might be of interest, and then you can explore some links that I'll leave you with at the end of the session. So if we consider finance first, the World Bank and the IMF are meeting as usual, as they do annually, but this time in Marrakesh for a change. And there is a counter summit to the World Bank and the IMF, and actually in Marrakesh from the 12th to the 15th of October. And there you see that that's a catalyst for a lot of resistance movements around the world, a lot of them calling for total debt cancellation of the global south. And that's kind of a no-brainer act of resistance to bring up the fact that it's just and we'll not get any climate action without any debt cancellation, especially for the over 95% of vulnerable climate countries that are in a debt crisis. Also, the COP28, I know Assad is coming, and if not Assad, I think Miranda will talk to the global march against fossil fuels. So I'll leave that one, but that's something that everybody can participate in. And there's a lot of resistance, obviously, since we're in a situation where we've actually got the CEO of an oil company heading up the COP talks. Yeah, it's a mad situation. We have in London, there's an organisation called IPICA you should look out for. There will be some resistance to this. It'll be mentioned in various actions, I'm sure, in the future. It's the fossil fuel industry's 50-year-old interface with the United Nations. So it's what gives the fossil fuel industry its insight into the IPCC and the COP process. Something else with regard to COP28 to look out for is the fact that the president of Brazil, Lula, backed up by Petro in Colombia, they're calling for the 2025 COP30 to be in the Amazon. So hopefully that would be a different COP. Fossil fuel resistance is widespread throughout the globe. Something that I know about and a lot of people in the UK are watching is the East Africa crude oil pipeline, 1,443 kilometers of heated crude oil, displacing hundreds of thousands of people in East Africa. And a carbon bomb in itself and threatening water of over 40 million people. There's a lot of resistance to that coming from the original Stop ECOP group in East Africa. If you're interested in, well, also watch out for a very active Extinction Rebellion group in the Democratic Republic of Congo. These guys are building resistance to 27 oil blocks throughout Democratic Republic of Congo that are up for sale, especially with relation to a British company named Perenco that is already in the Congo, already accused of human rights abuses and keen to buy some of these oil blocks. Another one to watch for is I mean, there's just so much resistance. Once you have a look, there's a lot of resistance. But not to forget that the new and upcoming energies like lithium are also problematic. It's not like that we have a new regime because we have a new energy system. And in Argentina, I think we're on the 49th day of a continuous vigil that groups in XR in Argentina are supporting, where a lithium mine is about to be set up in indigenous lands in Argentina. If you want to keep up with some of the things, both Global North and Global South, that are happening, the Extinction Rebellion Global newsletter is a good place to start. There are also on the Global website 29 little videos that were made for the big one about voices from the Global South. And if you want to invite somebody, if you want to invite a group to your group that will bring voices from the Global South, I think something like the Muslims Declare exhibition is a good one. It might be, inspire groups to do something similar, or they can come visit you. So yeah, that's just a brief, little snapshot of many things going on globally. I do think Global South solidarity is super important. I'll provide a lot of links when everybody's finished talking. That's me. Back to you, Kim Wei.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kathy. It's really wonderful to hear from the global picture. And I just want to apologise to everyone on the call that the introduction wasn't as smooth as it could have been. And I actually did miss out some stuff, which I'd like to fill in now. So one of the things that we need to say is that at the end of the call, we're going to have a Q&A. So there's a bit of time for that. And please use the chat for questions, and particularly for tech accessibility queries. I hope no one's been struggling with those in the absence of me having announced that earlier. We also want to say that we've heard your response, and that's why we're doing monthly open calls for the movement, because we want this to be a space for you. And you can join our Rebellion broadcast Telegram for daily updates, and our movement broadcast Telegram for talks and trainings. And I believe that those links are going to go in the chat. Finally, you can join the UK Rebellion space to connect, and the Ask Anything channel is always popular in Mattermost. That's the Ask Anything channel in Mattermost, and links to Mattermost will appear in the chat as well. I'm also apologise that there were a couple of people I didn't get to properly introduce, and one of them I'm going to call on next. Asad, it's quite difficult to see if you're in the call, but I believe you are. I've just been told that you are in the call, so I'm going to pass to you now to present your War on Want segment, or whatever you have for us, and then pass back to me.
Thanks, Kim Wei. And let me also just use this opportunity to say I think our appreciation as War on Want and many of us in the climate justice movement for all the work that XR has done. The big one, I thought, as Miranda was saying, the collaboration, the alliance building, the relationships, both linking to national to global, is such a critical part if we want to win in the face of course, ever increasing climate violence all over the world, and particularly on the global south. So I'm going to just say a few words more from the global level, building on what Kathy was saying. So there is a COP28 coalition, very similar to what we created when we did the COP26, but because of the challenges, obviously, with the with the lack of civic space in the Emirates, it's more of a regional coalition, but it has all the main international organizations part of it. And as well as the COP28 coalition, in the last few months, the main climate networks, the two big ones that are the Global Campaign to Demand Climate Justice, which is the main climate justice global network, and CAN International, which is more the sort of traditional, more mainstream, big environmental development NGOs, together with a lot of anti-fossil fuel networks, have been talking about how we could escalate our campaigning around fossil fuels and basically be bigger than the individual sub parts, and connect between all of the amazing resistance that is taking place all around the world, and also strengthen solidarity both within countries, between regions, between the north and north, and also between the north to the south. And we know that there is an incredible ecology of our movement working around fossil fuel work, whether that's folks doing direct action, to folks working around fuel poverty, to people targeting the financing of fossil fuels, and of course the site battles that are also taking place, and everything in between. And so there's been an agreement, and the COP28 coalition is also pushing this call out, as well as through these various networks, that in September, using the hook of the UN General Assembly, and Antonio Guterres is going to call for a sort of big high-level climate summit, that there should be a sort of days of escalation on fossil fuels. So 15th, 16th, 17th have been chosen. 15th, the Youth Climate Strikers have called the Global Day of Climate Strikes. 17th, there will be a major mobilization in New York. Now, here in the UK, the Climate Justice Coalition, which is the network which XR is part of, and many others are all part of, we've been discussing how could we contribute to as in a national level in the UK, a local level, and we decided, well, 16th is probably a better day which is a Saturday for us to try and do something that would try and connect with all the plurality of our movement, a real opportunity for us to strengthen those local relationships and bring in all the different parts of people campaigning, so the bigger NGOs as well as the more smaller campaigns and the direct action campaigns. So whatever people decide in terms of targets, but something that would be also engaging to members of the public. And of course, really critical for us to demonstrate the strength of our movement, particularly in light of, obviously, as we know, with the current government and its plan to greenlight the Rosebank, which will be roughly around the same time, and of course expanding fossil fuels, and as we know, continue to keep pressure on the Labour Party, particularly potentially the next government, who, as we know, are also backpedaling quite a lot on even the limited promises being made in terms around fossil fuels. So this is an opportunity for us, and it will be happening all over the world. So from the ECOP people to in Asia and Latin America, and of course here in Europe. And I think really why I want to come on here, and thanks Miranda for the invitation, is really to try and spread that through all of our networks now, to get that call being resonated, and to people to actively go out to other groups in their area and say, come on together, let's have a meeting. What can we do? Over the last week or so, we called a national meeting of all the different campaign organizations. And so that will also start filtering down through all the anti-fossil fuel networks to their individual groups. So hopefully it'll be a very sort of open relationship, and people will be keen to work together around that. And I don't want to take up a lot of valuable time, but I will also just echo that arc that Kathy talks about in terms of particularly September, October to November and December in terms of the COP. The World Bank IMF meeting, as Kathy mentioned, taking place in Marrakesh. It's the second time ever in the IMF's history that it's held a meeting in Africa, and there's big mobilizations in the region and an opportunity to really try and connect and deepen the economic justice campaigns and the climate justice movements. And we'll be here in the UK looking at how we can target both the IMF and World Bank, which have got an office here, but also the role of the UK, which is obviously a very, very influential player in both of those. And then around the third element will be the Global Day of Action on December 9th, which is being called by the COP28 coalition. And we're still discussing here amongst the CJC and with AGRA what that would look like in the UK. Traditionally, if you remember, we did decentralized actions, but had some centralized bigger moments like London, Cardiff, Belfast, Edinburgh, Glasgow. Usually the COPs are all in November. It's cold and dark enough, but in December it's even worse. So we're still working out, is it going to be a mass action or an A to B march? So be useful to hear feedback from XR through Miranda, what works best as well as that. But I think the real thing is to give a big push for this escalation of these few months and really demonstrate the strength of our movement around the fossil fuel campaign in September, which I think is a real good opportunity to shift both the mainstream NGOs and the mainstream part of our movement and better connect. And hopefully we'll say with very, very clear, strong voice, not only will we say no new fossil fuels, but really calling for the climate justice that we know we need if we want to prevent a breach of the 1.5 degree guardrail. I'll stop there unless there's anything specific you had questions. Otherwise, Miranda has a lot of that information, so I'm sure she'll be able to fill in as well.
Thank you so much, Asad. And just to let you know, moving forward, we've got 4 more presentations before the Q&A this evening. So if you could keep to your time as much as possible, those that are still to present. And I'd like to pass to Ben for our Community Alliance Building insert. Ben, are you there? There you are.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kimwei. And thank you, Asad, for all of that wonderful information. It's really nice to see the kind of emphasis of this open call is really on the kind of global picture. So I'm here to speak a little bit about community alliance building. Community alliance building was something that really took off before the big one as a way of trying to reach out to communities, to communities that might not kind of like naturally have ties with Extinction Rebellion, and to try and make Extinction Rebellion a kind of more diverse movement. So there were two main points here which I really want to emphasize. So first of all, Extinction Rebellion, cannot do it. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need to reach out to other communities and work with other communities to really make a difference and to be effective in mobilizing people and getting action. And the other thing that I wanted to emphasize is the kind of the diversity that we have inside Extinction Rebellion. And I think we really need to look at what communities perhaps might be missing from the movement. And so when we're at a protest or in our local groups, we need to look at, which of those communities which aren't there, and how is it that we can start to reach out to them to bring them in? And, we hear a lot about, the oppression and racism and sexism that exists within the police, but this is something that exists within society as a whole, and it applies to us as well. And so really the work that we need to do starts with ourselves. And so we really need to push ourselves in making connections to people that we might not naturally feel comfortable about doing, might be outside of our comfort zones. And so we need to push that and feel a little bit of discomfort maybe to go ahead and make those connections, because it really is so important. And I think the greater the diversity we have within our movement, the stronger the mandate that we have to act. So I'm just going to refer to my notes for a minute. the thing about you connecting to different communities is really important to listen to them. So when we're reaching out to people, they might not want to join as XR, but they might want to join us themselves. And so when we're building alliances with other communities, they can come as they are. And this is something that was very much done for the big one, that communities came as they were and joined with us. So this is very much about empowering them to do that. And we need to look for what are those connections that join us together. So what are those things that we have in common? What joins us together as human beings? I mean, this is very much a common struggle. And we know that the history of climate change is based on inequality, it's based on extraction, it's based on, you know, exploitation of people, exploitation of the land. And so, you know, very much about what Assad has been saying, you know, when we're fighting the climate crisis, it is about fighting inequality, it is about fighting oppression, and they are very much the same thing. If you're fighting inequality, you are fighting the climate crisis. And this is something that I've come to realize more and more the longer I've been within Extinction Rebellion. And I know that already many of you are already doing amazing work, and we're going to hear a little bit in a minute from Sam, who's going to be talking about the work that he's been doing in Hackney. But I know this is happening across the country, and that people's understanding is getting, you know, much broader of the picture and how we've arrived at this place. So what are some of the things that we can do for building community alliances? What are some of the examples we can do? So there's workshops, you know, you can run direct workshops in your local groups, inviting other community organisations, looking at how you can work together. And this was something that was very much that we did running up to the big one. You know, you could send out an email, find a list of organisations, find those ones which you think you might naturally have alliances with, email them, invite them to a workshop. Or you might already have connections with other groups and use those connections to invite them to a workshop. So those are two things you might want to do, and look at how you can work together. So that's one example. You could hold joint events in your community, something that would be of benefit to the community, and something that, and an event that you could run with another community group. And that's a way of kind of like building those relationships within the community that benefits people in the community, and then will also strengthen your relationship with other community organizations. So it could be something as simple as skill sharing. So it could be, you know, doesn't have to be specifically related to climate crisis. It could be about growing, it could be about growing herbs, it could be about composting, could be, you know, anything like that. It's just finding those things within the community that people are interested in. The other thing that I know many people are doing already, is looking at those issues that are affecting people within the community and working on those. So an example of that might be the sewage. We know that, you know, everyone is, you know, that's a hugely contentious issue, and work's already being done on that. But it's finding those issues and then working on those issues which naturally brings other people, other parts of the community to work with you on those issues. The other big movement at the moment that Extinction Rebellion has been working on is community assemblies. So you might have been at one of the workshops recently. There's a workshop coming up on the 20th of July, and I'll put those details in the chat. But it's about holding community assemblies within your area. And what's really good about this is this can reach out. If you find an issue for a community assembly that's going to reach out to different people, different communities, which affects them, it's a really good way of reaching out to those section community that, again, you know, might be missing. So it allows you to bring in a more diverse range. Or you can go out to those communities and say to them, what is it that you would like to talk about? Or what is it that you would like to have a community assembly on? So those are the kind of like the main things. So there's, yeah, holding a workshop, holding a community assembly, doing a skill sharing thing. These are the kind of events that you can use to reach out to other organizations within your community. And hopefully when we go the big one too, we'll be seeing a wider mix of people joining. And I think now I'm going to pass on to Sam, and Sam's from Hackney and has been doing amazing work in their local area about reaching out to communities.
Thanks, Ben. Brilliant. I'm just going to say a little bit about some of the things we've done, which is similar to what Ben was talking about. We did, I don't know if people know about the 3.5 project, which was about holding talks and stuff. And one of them we did on International Women's Day, which was basically inviting different women from different groups and having a panel, which we kind of hosted and used our kind of organizing skills to help sort of platform. So that's one thing that we did, just platforming women, talking about climate and women's liberation on International Women's Day. That was very successful. We didn't sort of put ourselves forward much. We were XR there, but it wasn't like a big deal. It was more about the event itself and celebrating something of those women on the panel and the women there. We've also done people's assemblies in the park, but that was kind of a local one as part of the 3.5 project. And that was really successful. One of the things is people are very willing to come and take part in those if it's open to people being able to be heard around all sorts of different issues, not necessarily about climate. And so we found it's quite good to have just a fairly open kind of agenda, although you can introduce inquiry questions and then sort of stream people's ideas and thoughts into kind of working groups. And it's not just the event itself, it's what happens afterwards, the follow-up, which is very important for people. They don't want to just come and talk and then it just be a talking shop. They want to be able to take part in something. So streaming those kind of ideas into action is really good. And of course, it seems to be like there's lots of people actually doing disruption that already that we don't have to necessarily organise, and that's the people that are striking. And we've done a lot of sort of solidarity work and found that just turning up on picket lines, making a specific banner to take, just being ourselves, turning up. We've been invited to speak. We've been invited to different sort of trade union meetings. People very easily have seen the link between sort of social justice issues and the climate. It seems to be very accessible, especially when people are there fighting for their pay and their jobs. So I think the two things that we're now working on is we're going to try and do a sort of big people's assembly next year, sort of mayoral election. We're having mayoral elections in London. And that's going to be in a park where we're going to do it across the borough and try and include different alliances in the organising of it and facilitating of it. So it's not just us doing it, we're there trying to build capacity with other people and build that sort of movement around our local area. So we're going to do that. And the other thing we're going to do is join in with the Greenpeace election Vote Climate campaign. And that's basically like 3.5, it's door knocking. It's basically having those conversations on the doorsteps with people about climate. It's about putting climate at the centre of the election. So again, we're not really going to go there. The XR group's going to be part of that thing, hopefully with other allies and other groups, but it's going to be like Greenpeace are going to provide all of the logistics, so we don't have to bring that to that. Yeah, so something in the chat, hold on. Don't know if it relates to me, but I think that's probably the things that we're doing. That'll be enough. Thank you.
Fabulous, Sam. Thank you. And I'm going to pass you directly over to Miranda, who's also going to tell us a bit more about community alliance building.
Thanks, Kimway. Yeah, I'm not going to speak for long about this, but I just wanted to say that we are running a training course around community alliance building. There will be opportunities to hear from experts around how to build relationships with faith groups, with parent groups, trade unions, how to increase your just basic relationship building, listening skills, and community organizing skills. So there's going to be 6 sessions. That I've put a message in the chat already about it with a link to register. We will release more information about which sessions are exactly happening on which dates shortly. But if you'd like to register for that and keep up to date with how that develops, we'd love to see you there on that course. Yeah, there'll be sessions about anti-oppression as well. And then we also have another poll that we would love for you to fill in. So Ned will launch that. Thank you, Ned. And the question that we'd love to hear from you about is which aspects of alliance building you would most like training on, because there's still space for us to tweak and change up that training course and to add sessions. So I'd love to know which aspects you would like more training. We can get experts in, won't all be led by us. We will get experts on specific areas in to talk to you about it. But please complete the poll now saying which areas you'd like more training in. If something is not there, please put it into the chat. So I think that's just about to launch. It's been brilliant, by the way. I've read, as everyone else has been speaking, I've read through the chat, hearing about all of the amazing community alliance building that's already happened. And it's really inspiring to hear what people have done in their area. And like the diversity is great as well. Like everyone's answers have been so different, and it is so specific to where you live and what groups are active where you live. And I think, you know, city and rural areas differ very much in terms of what kind of groups exist in those areas and what kind of campaigning issues are sort of fertile grounds for action in your area. It's really great to hear directly from you. And actually, we also have a Telegram group for people who are really keen on this community alliance building to stay in touch with each other, to be able to ask questions of each other and us. So we can share that link as well. Ben, if you could put that chat invite in the chat as well. All of these links, by the way, will be sent out in the follow-up email to this call. So, do we have the poll? Is it not working? Yeah, we've got it. Great. That's amazing.
People might need to click on the word poll at the bottom of the screen, or if they're on a phone, you might need to tap your screen and then slide across the options at the bottom.
Brilliant. Well, please fill out the poll, and if it's not working for you, you can more than welcome to just put your answers in the chat. So which areas would you most like additional training on to support your community alliance building? Yeah, and anything that we've left out of that list of options, please put it in the chat. We really want to know. We will look, we will collate the answers, and we will attempt to act upon any requests. So it's really worth having a think and filling out the poll and putting it in the chat if it's not on the poll. Thanks very much. I'll pass back to Kim Way.
Thank you, Miranda. So my insert is now the last insert before the Q&A. So I'm going to make it brief. My circle is the programming circle, which was responsible for programming the stages for the big one and also stage managing them on the ground during the big one. I want to clarify that we had people writing to us asking if we were printing programs and various other things, but we're programming in the sense of stage programming. So what's really exciting for us is that with the We Quit message and with the big one as it was, it opened up the music in protest stages to have more variety of performers, some of whom would not have been able to come to an arrestable event either because of their stance or their vulnerability, if they're from marginalized groups. And it also really created for the first time what I felt was the beginnings of a climate scene, and beyond that, particularly with the work that the Relationships Circle has done onboarding these 200 organizations, there's the opportunity for collaboration. As we saw, myself as the stage manager for the main stage throughout the 4 days, really saw such a rich program with so many different highlights. What stands out for me is Imperial Bamba, Colombian group, and also the Bulgarenge Circle, which I've been told I've never pronounced correctly, but bringing their traditional music from a culture which has been caring about the earth in a way which we need to learn from, from the very beginning, from before our history starts. Also, there were some key collaborations I was really excited about. We saw the whistleblower from Shell, Kaz, and be accompanied by Matt Black as she did her speech. Matt Black of Ninja Tunes, also hailed as the father of electronic dance music. This collaboration between them in spoken word and in music, these things could begin to happen with the existence of a stage that was doing such, putting on such a variety of different things. I found myself really learning from this way of hearing speakers from different organizations. So hearing from Chidi Obahara about how he's managed to get it so that several countries in Europe have committed to no new oil, and then hearing from Just Stop Oil on their campaigns around that as well, just in contrast on the same day, on the same stage. And I think that what we see moving forward, if I could ask for my slides, Kat, is that we really want as a team to find a way in which a climate performance arts team can be built and can grow over the next seasons or so. And so we want to be here to help you. We are in the process of trying to flat pack a sort of event document for how we work those stages over the course of the 4 days that may be useful to yourselves as local groups, putting on events where there is a soapbox or a stage or a mic of some kind. We're also looking to move forward in terms of finding ways of building a scene, finding ways of encouraging people to collaborate across disciplines. I've been doing a project where I interview climate scientists and then write a piece of music, and I just learned recently the climate scientist I know has started listening to songs and writing a climate talk in response. So there's lots of opportunities for this to spark something really exciting and kind of alternative culture, which I know has been right at the heart of XR since its conception with the Creative Circle and art blocking. And now that programming is running year round, we really want to bring that to the stage. So finally, we've got a poll, but not the one I was expecting. The results of the poll have just come out. Thank you. That's from Miranda's. And I was wondering if we can also put forward the programming poll. And then I'm going to move us over to the Q&A. So we really also want to hear from you as a programming team. Our email address, we'll put it down. It's programming.xr@proton.me. And if you've got events that you're interested in putting on, protestables, marches, anything that involves performers, we'd be interested for you to get in touch with us. And we'll be coming forward with some resources to help you as well soon. So I think it's time to move forward to the Q&A. And I believe that Kat is going to feed me the questions for the Q&A so that we can get them to the right person to be answered. So Kat's just put something in the chat. Please share your questions to the team in the chat. How do we offer solidarity to activists in the global south and amplify their message without falling into becoming white saviors and risk taking their voice rather than giving one? It would be good to have guidance from BIPOC activists within the XR UK. I can take that question unless there's someone who feels they can. Go on, Kathy.
Maybe I just say that, like, I think it's important to have genuine connection if you want. Well, I think it's simple to offer solidarity in terms of, like, you see something that has happened globally, you explore it, you share, you talk about it, you raise the consciousness of that, you write about it. like that I think that's really important to get the voice out there. If you have particular people you connect with, I think then it's a question of listening. What do people want you to do apart from amplifying their voices? And usually it is about, please get our story out, like help us have a webinar, invite us to like Zoom events, that kind of thing. And I think that we know that we cannot be a white savior. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So I think most people in the global south just want to be heard. So I think it's about listening, but I might be wrong. I'll pass to you, Kimway. I do have a lot of connections with people. If people are really interested in connecting with global Extinction Rebellion groups, I can help you there.
Thank you, that's fantastic. I know we've got some questions in the document right here. Okay, fantastic. So we've got a question. What is the mechanism you are using so that each local XR chapter can find out what is working and what is failing to get community assemblies going? Does this, hopefully this would include links to relevant articles, books, and histories of how similar efforts succeeded in other nations? Is anyone who can speak to that one? Ben, unless I missed someone.
We don't actually, there is a community assemblies working group, but none of the people from that working group are present on this call. I'm pretty sure there is a Telegram chat which is specifically aimed at community assemblies, which I'll try and find the details of and post it in the chat. So there's a limited, in fact, with Denise is here, maybe she's going to be able to give more information. I'll hand over to Denise.
Yeah, hiya. It's an ongoing piece of work. So the working group hasn't been going that long, and we're still sort of pulling a lot of different threads together. But one of them is an information resource on the Rebel Toolkit, and Ned will probably be able to drop a link into the chat for that. But you'll see that we're pulling together a list of potential resources, whether it be like assemblies that are happening elsewhere, or the theory of it, or there's a bunch of materials. But I think what I'd also like to see eventually along the road is that we also start to build a kind of list of people who are experts. So the working group have put together a spreadsheet where anybody who's got a lot of experience in terms of facilitating and note taking, and then we're making a note of that. I think that's probably as much as where we're up to at the moment. But yeah, we're keen to hear from anybody with experience, and there is a channel on Mattermost as well for community assemblies. So please do drop in, say hello, pop any questions in there as well.
Thank you, Denise. I'm going to take one final question, and then we're going to wrap up the call with a song. It's from John. It seems that the best way to build local alliances is to go to other groups and do work with them that they're already working on, but that would take years, not months. Is there a quicker way to really build relationships of trust and mutual support? I feel like that's probably for Miranda. Miranda, can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, thanks, Kimway. I don't think it's necessary to have to kind of go and do the work, to always be subservient to the projects that the other group has ongoing. I think what's important is to establish like where there's a connection and there's shared values and there's shared sort of desires for change. And then you can find ways to work together on projects that further everybody's objectives and are in true solidarity. So I definitely think it would be a mistake to just kind of go around sort of filling in the gap, like, sort of helping out every other group's campaign and never kind of, having an agenda of our own. And also it's not honest, like we do have an agenda of our own, but it's about like that, those conversations you have that can establish where there is that common ground, where you do have that shared agenda that allows you to build something that's really collaborative, that you can work together on, that's useful for both of you. Like there's no point going off and doing things with other groups that you don't see has value, you know, that would be a mistake. It's about finding where there's shared purpose and shared commonality.
Thank you, Miranda. Can I ask you to just facilitate for a moment and go to Chia whilst I go and get my guitar?
Hi, Chia, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I'm coming from the other side of it, another group kind of coming in to try and collaborate with XR. And it's just like the question of whether XR local groups would be open to working with groups outside XR, say if we were to provide toolkits for local groups to take on. Because one of the things Fuel Poverty Action is thinking of doing is potentially creating toolkits against trying to get taxing the fossil fuel industry to provide free energy for all, and like how XR local groups potentially could get involved in that. And if we were to provide something like that, would that be something XR would want to take on the local level? And if so, please just get in touch, because we want to work with as many people as possible.
Yeah, thanks, Chia. I mean, actually, relationships team speak to other members of Fuel Poverty Action regularly, so that's something that we can discuss with you guys and with the people that we speak to, and with Ruth as well. So, you know, and that and you know, it potentially could disseminate to local groups, but equally, it's encourage local groups not just to wait for relationships to kind of steer you towards groups, but to, you know, as you already all clearly are, I don't need me to say this, you know, take the initiative and find out who's there locally and reach out. But that doesn't need to be said. Are you ready, Kimway, to go? Thanks, Chia, for that. And so. Yeah, we're excited to hear more about that. Kimway, are you ready to go with your song?
Yeah, I believe so. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, then we're good to go. So thank you for coming to this open call. We've really enjoyed sharing what the Relationship Circle is about with you. And we're having a lot of technical difficulties. So actually, if this mic drops in the middle of the song, I'll just switch to another one. You'll notice like a gap, but you can edit it out in your brain. And since we're talking about relationship building with other
Oh, we've lost Kimway.
Okay, it's gone. That's sad.
Oh,
looks like we're over to the low-tech version. Just take this out then. Yeah. So sorry that we're running over. If you're willing to stay with us for a few more minutes, you get one more song. This is a song that I wrote for the Right to Vote campaign, which was, of course, one of the groups that was present at the big one. And it's of particular interest at the moment because the public order bill, the right to the public's right to the countryside, is being discussed in Parliament. And Caroline Lucas did a wonderful presentation explaining how, you know, it's key that we have access to nature if we're going to be passionate about protecting it. So we're going to sing you out with this song, The Stars Are Burning. See if you can get in. Try and we'll crowd in around this. Right. 3, 4. The stars are falling, one for the lost and found. We have found solid ground. The stars are falling, everyone. Let the sky sing a song, telling us we belong, and the right to roam is ours. We are under the same star tonight. Well, is this your countryside? Is this your land? Tell me it's your property, and that's why it's loud. The right to roam is our right. We are under the same stars tonight. The stars are falling, For the lost and found, we have found solid ground. The stars are full and free. One that's we sing song. Telling us the mountains. We are walking down the same side tonight. Well, life's not done. No pen to my name. This life does not belong to me, but I belong to you. Right, that's right. We are under the same sun tonight. The stars are we are solid ground. The stars on the side sing a song, telling us we belong. The lights we are under the same sun tonight. Take it away, Chris. The stars we are under the same sun tonight. Thank you, Lisa and Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the open call. I hope it was useful. We will send out follow-up email with any links, and yeah, see you all soon. I'll put an email address in the chat again, just in case you have any questions. But yeah, thanks all for joining.